Are we live, Mike? Mark, are we live? Isn't technology great? Oh, there's the speaker right there.
There we go. Are they going to see him behind us? Oh, we got him. We're all set.
Yep.
Big hand for Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson.
Great to see you.
Mr. Speaker, before you yield the floor, but I do have to say for this group, how about the way, how many first-time folks are here? Okay, we got a bunch. When the Speaker became Speaker, the very first thing that he did, publicly he did, was come to the RJC in Las Vegas, shortly after the October 7th nightmare. And I will say this: the love for Israel is part of it's in his core, it's his soul, and he has demonstrated that each and every day, each and every time when an issue arises. He's been in the right place because he loves the Jewish people and the U.S.-Israel relationship. For that, Mr. Speaker, we say thank you.
Yes. Yes. And if I could add to that just real quickly, Mr. Speaker, if I could just add to that, like our children, we don't have any favorites, but I will say that having done this and been in this chair for quite some time, as has Senator Coleman, we have been fortunate to have in the history from Speaker Gingrich to Speaker Ryan to Speaker McCarthy, an entire group of amazing speakers who have been incredibly pro-Israel. But I will tell you, Mr. Speaker, you have redefined what it means to be pro-Israel at a critical time, not just pro-Israel, but also standing up to anti-Semitism and standing shoulder to shoulder with the American Jewish community. And we are very grateful for that.
Well, Matt, Norm, thank you so much. Thanks to the Republican Jewish Coalition. I wish I could be there in person. I can't abandon my post here at the Capitol during the Schumer shutdown. Y'all know the problem. But I will say the RJC has always had a special place in my heart, always will be. You're right. The very first public appearance that I made as the 56th Speaker of the House back in 2023 was just 19 days after the horrific October 7th attack. But it was the morning after I became Speaker. I flew to Vegas to be with you. It was that important. And it's my great honor to join you once again and to stand with you as always and to stand with Israel and to finally proclaim together that peace is on the way in Israel and the hostages are home. And yeah. Well, look, we all know none of that would have been possible, just as unified Republican governance in Washington would not have been possible without you and your efforts. And of course, the incredible leadership of President Donald J. Trump. And yeah, I spoke with him early this morning. He called me very early, woke me up, and that's, I always say, I'm up, sir. No, you're not, Mike, I'll call you back, but he did. I know he's looking forward to speaking with you later today, and it's my honor to be with you all in this fight. And I'll just say this, and we can go on with the questions, but it's never been more important, as we all know, than it is right now, for us to stand together arm in arm, and it's my great honor and blessing to do so.
So, Mr. Speaker, a little not Israel related, but when do the Democrats come back to work? When does the Schumer shutdown end? Do you have any insight on that for us?
I wish I could tell you. I mean, we do have a sense that something may change next week. Of course, there's a big election on Tuesday, and sort of the conventional wisdom on the Hill right now is that they're waiting for that to pass because they can't take the wrath of their radical, frankly, anti-Semitic, socialist, Marxist base. If they fold too soon, they're afraid it might affect voter turnout. But that really is the sum total of their calculus right now. They're trying to cover their own backsides. I mean, I'm just going to be frank, and I have been, because I'm telling the simple truth, that Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries both are from New York. They're facing the rise of the Marxist anti-Semitic left, and they're afraid they're going to get a direct challenge to their own seats in their next re-election. And that is the motivation behind what they're doing, and it is so frustrating to us.
Let me just jump in, Madam. You mentioned the anti-Semitic base, and unfortunately, that's where the Democrats have gone. It's heartbreaking. Though I remember the words, if Mondami wins in New York, I do remember the words of former Mayor Ed Koch, who once said, "The people have spoken; they deserve to be punished." Now, I hope that's not the case, but it breaks my heart. Let's talk about anti-Semitism for a second. One of the October 7th was a nightmare, but out of that nightmare, there are a couple things that kind of shine a light. You know, one of them was that, on day one, the world kind of fell for Israel, and on day two, Israel was committing genocide, and Israel was the enemy. And what we saw, in particular on college campuses, chanting "from the river to the sea," Jewish students afraid to wear Stars of David or kippas on their head. It's absolutely stunning. So what happened is I think it ripped the bandage off the scab of that pus of anti-Semitism that is certainly in college campuses very, very prevalent, to the degree that I'm not sure we fully understood. The House kind of jumped right on that and kind of confronted and dealt with, Elise Stefanik, questioning of the presidents of 3 colleges there, and then unable to say that wanting to kill Jews was somehow violating campus policy. Tell us where we're at. We saw that hearing. What's the follow-up, and what can we do to really deal with what unfortunately is kind of rampant on American college campuses?
Norm, there's so much to say on this issue, as we both know, and it's certainly concerning to see some pockets, even on the right now, embrace anti-Semitic rhetoric, and we just have to be vigilant guards against that in any place that it shows its ugly head. And I'm just going to be frank, I think a big part of our current challenge right now is really as simple as basic just education. You mentioned that the rise of anti-Semitism on the college campuses, it did surprise a lot of us. I think what we might have sometimes taken for granted in years past, we can no longer just assume anymore. I don't think we could just assume that most people, even in some conservative circles, understand the importance of, for example, standing closely with our ally Israel. I mean, aside from the clear biblical admonitions of Scripture for the Jewish people, and obviously for Christians, it goes all the way back to the book of Genesis, as I remind my friends all the time. And aside from the morality of Americans standing on the side of civilization over barbarism, as Bibi Netanyahu says, there are obviously very practical and pragmatic reasons for our nation to support the only stable democracy in the Middle East. I mean, if you want to talk about America First principles, it's obviously in America's direct interest to foster stability in that region and to collaborate and trade with one of our closest and most faithful friends and allies. Now, with regard to the rise of anti-Semitism, it's education as well. I mean, here in our country, I've tried to use my voice as speaker for good to condemn that everywhere that it pops up. And I think everybody can see this as a problem that's now saturating, certainly, the progressive far-left movement, more than anywhere else in American politics. And we have to confront that directly with clarity, consistency, and conviction. And we've seen it in the past few months, even formerly mainstream Democrats openly embracing this stuff. They're openly embracing the radical socialist candidates like Mondani and others. And those people have embraced alarmingly anti-Semitic language and behavior. They have no shame about it at all. So I would just say this, look, the universities are a symptom of the overall problem. The Democratic Party as a whole has taken a hard left turn, and it's dangerous development. And I just think that we've got to stand with truth in the face of that. And we have to speak with such clarity and consistency and conviction that it goes and filters all the way down to the university campuses. And in Congress, of course, we'll be doing a lot more work on that in the days ahead.
Well, Mr. Speaker, if I could build on that for a second, and I would like to share just very briefly a little anecdote to underscore so people can understand the true commitment that you have. So we were on an RJC trip during the days of the Biden administration after October 7th. We were in Israel. We were meeting with Prime Minister Netanyahu. He had literally just gotten word at that moment that the Biden administration was withholding arms that Israel desperately needed to prosecute the war in Gaza and to ultimately to do what it took to get our hostages back. And left the meeting, and the first phone call I made was to you. And you said, That's outrageous. It's unacceptable. And then you got the chairman of the House Armed Services Committee and other key members of the leadership. You said you were seeing President Biden later that day at a Holocaust Remembrance event. You stepped right into the breach. I know you called Prime Minister Netanyahu. The Republicans under your leadership have been absolutely unfailing in their support for Israel, both in terms of the moral support, but also to make sure Israel has the supplies and the military needs that it needs to win. Now that the war is over, we have a memorandum of understanding between the United States and Israel that's due to come up and to be debated. What should we do from an RJC perspective? What should we do as Republicans to ensure that the U.S.-Israel relationship and its support in Congress remains strong for the next coming decade and beyond?
Well, I'll say this, your advocacy has been very important, and I think we need to do that now in earnest. More than we ever have before. Again, it's an education process. It is about advocacy as well. And we've got to make sure that the next generation behind us understands that. We've got to make sure that the candidates that we recruit to run for Congress understand the importance and the necessity of that. That's a big part of this effort that I'm undergoing as well. And then we've got to make sure, of course, that the elected officials in the Senate and the House, in both chambers and in both parties, understand the necessity of this being a bipartisan effort. We've got a lot of work to do on that front, and I think the work of RJC and other allied groups is more important now than it's ever been. We can advance good legislation, we can continue all these investigations, and we can uncover where some of these abuses have taken place, for example, like on the college campuses. It's really, really important stuff for us to be engaged in.
Can I ask you a political question? And unfortunately, history has shown that in the midterm of President's first term, the party in power loses seats in the House. If the Democrats come back in, they're going to do nothing for America, but they could probably just spend all the time trying to impeach the president. Talk to us a little bit about kind of your read on, give me a little, and by the way, as I say this, I am optimistic we will keep the House. It absolutely has to happen. You will continue to be the Speaker. A Democrat agenda of support for Hamas, boys and girls sports, open borders, and to fund the police should not be very popular with Americans. But give us a read on kind of how you're seeing the midterms play out, and kind of tell us where we should be focusing our efforts and our energies.
Thank you for asking that question. It is the most important one right now, certainly among the most important. I want to thank RJC, obviously, for helping us win the House, the Senate, and the White House in 2024. We could not have done it without your help, and thank you for that, sincerely. What happened in 2024 was very interesting, and it informs what happens next year in the fateful midterm election. Now remember, we have to defy history to win that House majority. Only twice in the last 90 years has the sitting president picked up seats for his party in that midterm election. The last example was George W. Bush. That was after 9/11, so that one hardly even counts. And before that, the last example I can cite to you is FDR in the 30s. Now, we're the group that defies expectation and makes history, and I'm convinced we're going to do that again this fall. And there's a couple of quick reasons I'll summarize for you. I have a 90-minute slideshow, Norm, but I won't go through it all this morning. But here's the quick summary. We really did experience a dramatic demographic shift in the 2024 election, in part because of your assistance. We picked up a record number of Jewish voters for the Republican Party. They switched and they came to our side. That was a big thing. In a state like New York, for example, it was about a 45% Jewish turnout. In Florida and Nevada and Arizona, the other key states, it really made a difference. We had a demographic shift in many categories like that. Hispanic and Latino voters, Black and African American voters, union workers, you had young people, even suburban women in many places. And I believe those demographics will stay with us in the next election because we are demonstrating for them they made the right choice. Secondly, we have a very favorable election map. Even before the redistricting battles that are currently going on began, we were already in a great position because we have far more Democrats seated today in the House in districts that President Trump won than Republicans seated in Kamala Harris districts, and that'll inure to our benefit. And I think the third reason is the Democrats are flailing. They have no identified leader. They have no platform, no position they can stand for that is palatable. Their entire agenda can be summed up in one phrase: we hate Donald Trump. Well, good luck with that, selling that to voters. You know, that's not exactly a platform. The fourth thing I would call the Charlie Kirk effect. I mean, there's a generation of young conservatives who are coming up, and they're going to be engaged, and they're going to want to have an outlet for that, and I think the midterm election is part of that. So there's all the dynamics give us a lot of tailwinds, and I would summarize it one way as well by saying this: look at reality. Every day when we're coming out and doing the morning press conference on the government shutdown, it is allowing us an opportunity to portray what I call the split screen. On one side, you have President Trump and the Republican Party, all of us together. We are cutting taxes, cutting regulations, reducing fraud, waste, and abuse in government. We've ended the border crisis. We're ending the crime crisis. We have American energy dominance again. We have new trading agreements that are favorable to us for the first time in generations. And President Trump is literally around the world solving wars and conflicts that have been going on for a long, long time. That's on one side of the screen. On the other, what have the Democrats accomplished in the last 10 months when we've been doing all that? They shut the government down. They assaulted ICE officers. They fostered political violence. I mean, the contrast between the two parties has never been more clear than it is right now. And I pray and believe that because of all of our hard work together, we're going to have even more Americans come to our side, and we are going to make history, and we're going to grow the House majority, keep the Senate, and obviously President Trump will have 4 years and not 2.
Mr. Speaker, as we like to say, from your mouth to God's ears. And if I could ask the tech team for a second, because I know we had promised your team that we would have a hard stop at 12:45 your time. So I'm going to wrap it up on that point. I will tell you that the Republican Jewish Coalition is not 100% in with you, but we're 1,000% in with you. And we are proud to be standing shoulder to shoulder, not just on the critical issues that are facing our country, but on helping to give you a expanded majority so that your stress level is a little less, and you can actually get some things done without being held hostage to a small majority in the House. I'd like to ask our tech guys, because I would want to say thank you, but before I do that, I'd like you to bring up the House lights. I'd like the jib operator so the Speaker can see what I know will be an enthusiastic standing ovation when we say that we are grateful for you. Mr. Speaker, we love you. We are honored by your friendship. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And as we say, next year in Vegas.